Louis, who wanted Tim Lewis very badly. So we have some picks, interesting picks coming up. Buffalo now with 2 of the next 3 picks. Detroit sandwiched in between. I know Buffalo likes Jim Kelly. Detroit might be interested in a quarterback also with their unsettled situation. So I think you might see Eason and Jim Kelly go in 2 of the next 3 picks, and perhaps Buffalo grabbing Tony Hunter as a tight end. He's still sitting there.
I was going to say that. I didn't want to sound like Johnny One Note. Hunter, but...
Sean Farrell?
Sean Farrell, yeah. But it's just amazing what happens, you know, the way people stampede and somebody projected so high just keeps rolling lower and lower. But the thing that's sad right now is as each pick comes down Baltimore, it goes deeper and deeper into oblivion.
A lot of the people they wanted are gone now.
Well, they still might trade for those 2 lower San Diego picks, but that doesn't look likely. And I think they're really emerging as the sadness story of this draft.
All right, we're waiting at this juncture on the Buffalo Bills selection. The Bills 4-5 in 1982-83 season. Waiting for the word from Orchard Park here in New York City at the New York Sheraton Hotel. Let's go back to our ESPN studios. Bob Lee.
And thank you, George. Chris, you have no doubt in your mind that it's going to be Hunter for Buffalo.
It's got to be Hunter. Going into the pros now, he is rated much higher than Kellen Winslow was. Going into the pros, I'm not saying that he's going to be a better professional tight end than Kellen Winslow. That's tough to do, but he is rated higher coming out of college. It's got to be Hunter. In Mark Bramer, they don't own a Winslow-type tight end, do the Bills.
Number 11 pick, though, overall in this draft by Green Bay, in a selection that they acquired from New Orleans. Tim Lewis out of Pittsburgh. You can see 2 interceptions and 1 sack this year. A man with 4.55 speed. Keep your eye on number 26. He's got it in the bloodlines, Bud, because his brother Will played at Seattle and Kansas City. Had a very good senior year. They projected an immediate starter.
He's got that remarkable speed, also the ability to cover man for man. And he's been in the league where he's had a lot of people throw the ball at him, so they're very comfortable of his skill and ability.
Broke up 4 passes this year, had a couple of interceptions, 3 tackles for loss. And then when we look at defensive backfield men, Chris, we rate them for quickness, for agility, for their ability to react to a pass and to force, come up against and play against the run. And it's a very good number for Tim Lewis. And again, number 26 out of Pitt, perhaps the best all-around cornerback in this draft.
He is the best all-around quarterback in this draft, Bob. And another thing that we should mention, he is rated an outstanding open field tackler. And if you're going to play man-to-man every now and then in the pros, you had better be a good open field tackler in this day and age of aerial warfare.
Well, Green Bay has selected Lewis. Prior to that, the Giants going for Terry Kennard. So a couple of defensive players, the first 2 selected in this draft. As again, if you've just joined us, Baltimore did pick John Elway to lead off the draft. We await now. Buffalo, will it be Tony Hunter, the tight end out of Notre Dame? Let's see in New York City.
There's the Buffalo desk. The Walsh boys are getting ready to see what exactly happens. Brian Walsh and Kevin Walsh, they've been doing it for a lot of years with the Buffalo folks here. In fact, they were here last year. There we go. We're waiting on the selection. I think they're trying to pull one of the National Football League officials over to get the full reading on exactly what they're going to do with their car. They're waiting. They're talking to Orchard Park right now. Neither one of these 2 gentlemen, the 2 Walshes, work full-time for the Buffalo Bills. We should point out that's really true of most of the people that are here. They are friends of friends, that kind of a situation.
I think they stay in this room year-round.
That's right. They come out and be along
you know,
a lot of years.
This we were talking about Detroit pick, you know, needing him back because Billy Simpson might go with his agent to the USFL in 2 years. James Jones, who we thought the Eagles might pick, I'm looking at my notes now, and I talked to Lynn Stiles, and he said he was concerned about a numbness caused by a spur between the 5th and 6th vertebrae. Now, I don't know whether that vertebra information has gotten out, and maybe that's what's keeping Jones down, but it would be logical that Detroit would pick him, and if not, then you have to be concerned about the physical.
How about this Buffalo selection? You know, you can talk, this is the first pick. They've got a couple of them coming up. The first one is from the Cousineau deal.
I would say they're interested in Mike Pitts, the defensive end from Alabama. They didn't think he'd be here this long. I think that would be one of their picks, and the second one would be a quarterback, Eason or Kelly.
Possibility also, we mentioned earlier, we talked about Hunter. Vernon Maxwell might even be a possibility with the linebacker situation. Shane Nelson probably will never play again because of knee problems. Isaiah Robertson doesn't have so many years left. So there's really, you can make a case for, with 2 picks, about 4 real solid players that the Bills will come up with, and they probably can't go wrong on whichever 2 they pick.
Is there a different feeling in the Buffalo organization this year? Knox is going. Norm Pollen has been running the draft over the last few years. With a new coach, is there a different feeling that you guys have read?
Yes. Yeah, Knox used to tell us in case Stevenson won't. That's the difference. Of course, Knox didn't tell us what he was going to do last year, but most of the time he would. And Kay is one of these guys who's his best available athlete, but, you know, that Russian decathlon man is still waiting.
You know, for those of you that are just joining us, we want to update you on one other story, and that is the John Elway situation. Elway was selected by the Baltimore Colts as the top player in this year's 1983 National Football League draft. There was no trade at that juncture. The word we got from Los Angeles, from Greg Wyatt, was that Elway, in fact, was leaning towards baseball. We're waiting for an Elway news conference that'll take place later this afternoon. We're still waiting, and I don't think this is a story that's going to be completed until possibly this day is over at the earliest, or maybe longer.
I believe that Elway would go baseball before the Colts, and I know his father, I remember him saying, we don't want John to be another Archie Manning. No aspersions cast on Archie, but they don't want him burning out his career behind inferior offensive lines and being all beat up by the time he's 30.
Remember the Roger Staubach situation, or many other quarterbacks who have gone away to come back to football. You can take away for a couple of years, maybe a couple, come back again, and then try your football a little bit later on. It's a lot easier to do that than do it the other way around.
You can stay out 2 years and come back with no compensation at all, and the Colts would not even have a right of first refusal after the draft in 1985. So what I think is going to happen, though, is Buffalo is now, it's coming down to around 7 minutes. They're talking with Baltimore about Elway, and they're going to trade those 2 picks, get Elway, and then he can commute between Buffalo and Oneonta. And
that's right. 2 sport athletes. We can let her in both.
Who you're seeing on the screen right there is Tony Hunter from the University of Notre Dame, and Jan Van Duzer right behind him. It looks like there's your pick for the Buffalo Bills.
Tony's still here?
Tony is standing right there now. He was part of our NFL Draft preview show last evening, and Buffalo, through the Walshes, have told Tony that he is their man. Now the commissioner will let all the rest of us know that that's the fact.
Buffalo Bills select in the first round, tight end, Tony Hunter from Notre Dame. Next up, Detroit.
Nice pick, Howard.
Next up, Detroit, and guess who's after Detroit? The Buffalo Bills once again. So we're standing by for the Detroit Lions pick. We'll be back with Tony Hunter and his reaction after these messages on the NFL Draft on ESPN.
If you're a super enthusiast, get your hands on Auto Week. Every week, Auto Week puts you in the world's most interesting cars. High-performance sports cars, classy sedans, 4x4s, front drivers, even bikes. Auto Week tells you what they're like, how they handle and go. And Auto Week features new ideas, maintenance, tires, classics, shocks, rallying, everything for a super enthusiast. And nobody covers racing like Auto Week. The fastest coverage of Indy, Formula One, Can-Am, NASCAR every week. If you're a super enthusiast, Auto Week is written for you. Now get a year's subscription.
Standing by across the river is Leandra Riley, who's keeping us up to date on some of the players' reactions and the Notre Dame contingent in this 1983 National Football League draft. Leandra.
I'm standing by with a Notre Dame fan, a Notre Dame player who is waiting to be drafted. Dave Durison, and a teammate of yours was just selected. What can you tell us about Tony Hunter going to Buffalo?
Well, I was a little bit surprised that Tony lasted so long. I think maybe the entire country was surprised that Tony lasted so long. But Buffalo definitely got a great choice in Tony Hunter.
How do you think he'll mesh into the Buffalo system coming from the college system and Gary Moeller?
Well, I think right away he's going to have an impact on the NFL. Tony's, say, a clone to a Kellen Winslow or Ozzie Newsome or someone like that. And I think Tony's going to really show up the league. I think he's going to do a great job.
Okay, you're still waiting. Are you nervous at all sitting here waiting to be drafted?
Well, yeah, you know, I think right now I'm just going back in retrospect about my entire career as a high school player, as a college player, just trying to rehash the entire thing, just waiting.
Okay, good luck to you, and we'll be watching for your reaction in just a moment. Now let's go back to New York.
Thank you, Leandra. The card you see belongs to the Detroit Lions in their first-round selection as Pete Rozelle discusses it with Al Ward.
Detroit Lions, first pick in the first round. James Jones, fullback, Florida. Next up, Buffalo through a previous trade with Cleveland.
So there is where James Jones has gone.
Yeah, now the quarterback position or Pitts. I would say either Eason or Kelly as the quarterback for Buffalo, or defensive end Mike Pitts?
That sounds pretty much. I had projected Vernon Maxwell, but probably as the draft stands right now, I had Pitts and Eason being gone already, and Kelly being gone as well. So I would think that would be the logical pick for Buffalo. Of course, remember, they drafted Matt Kofler on the 2nd round last year. A lot of people are wondering why would they be looking for a quarterback when they have Kofler. There is the feeling that his arm isn't strong enough to go through the wind in Buffalo in the cold weather. But it's going to be interesting to see exactly what they do.
And my other question, too, in addition to the Kofler situation, was the dollars they paid Kofler.
That's right. They paid him
big bucks, and now you're talking about bringing in another quarterback. So one has got to go, and whoever comes in, if it is one of these rookie quarterbacks, they're going to ask for big dollars, too, no doubt.
That's true. Kofler had an offer from the Canadian League last year, and the Bills came up with a heck of an offer to keep him. So obviously they thought highly of him last year. So
and Case Stevenson was in his corner. You liked him. You know, there's an interesting pick coming up. If Pitts slips through to Atlanta, they would just jump for joy. They like him so much that they were willing to trade up to Philadelphia's spot to get him.
Okay, I'll keep an eye on that one.
Yeah, watch him. I mean, Dan Henning will go out and celebrate tonight if Pitts is still available.
All right. Sal Marciano is standing by with somebody who may be doing some celebrating before this day is over, too. Sal?
Okay, George, you know that Notre Dame is very tough on their athletes. Tony Hunter is cutting school today because he's at the NFL draft. He's been picked by the Buffalo Bills. Give me your reaction to playing with the Bills.
Well, you know, I had a feeling that Buffalo would draft me if I would be around. I talked to the head coach, Case Stevenson, and he told me that if I was around, he would draft me, and I'm real happy about it.
You're 6'4", 230. They timed you in 4.66 in the 40. You're an All-American basketball player as well as football player. Shows me that you're an athlete for sure.
Well, yeah, I thank God. He's blessed me with a lot of athletic ability. And I think it's up to me right now to get into professional football and to use that to the utmost. And again, there's 3 people I would really like to thank. And first of all, I would like to thank God, because a lot of things have gone well for me in my life. And secondly, I'd like to thank my mother, a very special lady. And next, I want to thank the Bills organization for having faith in me.
Tony, you're from Cincinnati. During this restless night that you had here in New York, were you at any point rooting that perhaps the Bengals might be in a position to draft?
Well, you know, I was pretty open-minded about it, because, you know, everybody was saying it was going to be either L.A. or it was going to be Denver, and nobody knew for sure. Everybody was speculating on it. So I just kind of kept an open mind, and it was just wherever I knew that wherever I would be going would be for the best.
Best of luck in the pros to you, Tony Hunter, Notre Dame. Congratulations, picked by the Buffalo Bills. Now let's return to our guys at ESPN.
Thank you, Sal. And let's backtrack just a bit as we are awaiting Buffalo's 2nd pick in the 1st round and go back overall to the number 6 selection belonging to Chicago in the 1st round of this draft. We're speaking about offensive tackle Jimbo Covert out of the University of Pittsburgh, one of the premier offensive linemen, obviously, as seen by the way he was selected. Dick Steinberg of the New England Patriots, player personnel man, knows his people around the pros, and here are his thoughts on Jimbo.
Jimbo Covert is just a big, physical, tough guy. I mean, he's mentally tough, and he's physically strong enough to knock people off the line of scrimmage. You can't jerk him or pull him rushing the passer. He's not the niftiest guy in the world, but he's so big and so strong, and he's a long way to get around protecting, and he's got good technique. All those pit linemen block just like the NFL guys do.
One of the few Panthers this past year, Jim Covert, who did not get graded down. And let's look at the offensive line and see that the people that were starting at the end of the year put Jimbo Covert in there as a rookie. Also, though, Chris, you have to consider Dennis Lick, Ted Albrecht, and Keith Van Horn. Injuries and inconsistency have been questions there. So not necessarily it'll be Neal and Hartnett who will be the people that he'll be fighting for jobs in there. Scouting-wise, strength, quickness for the run and for the pass, an 18-9.
Yeah, look, the Bears, it's obvious they need some help. They finally have a quarterback, as we mentioned before, in Jim McMahon. Jim McMahon doesn't have the greatest of knees in the world. He's not the most mobile back there. And Walter Payton the last couple of years has sued for non-support. So perhaps with Covert, 280 pounds, that's one of the heaviest listings. You know, most of these guys are 265, 270, but 280. So it will take a few seconds to get around Covert if he is in there, and that's the time they need, McMahon needs to throw the ball down. A good choice for the Bears.
Here's a fellow who was a defensive lineman at one point, Bud, and has a bit of a nasty streak, which you've got to have to play in the pits like that in the trenches.
I think you have to have it to be a football player. But the key thing about Covert is his strength and his mental toughness and his really true aggressiveness.
He is 6'5", 280 pounds, timed at 5.15, but you're not necessarily looking for foot speed per se over 40 yards for a tackle. He is the number 6 selection overall for Pittsburgh. Now, following his selection, Todd Blackledge was selected by Kansas City. We are awaiting Buffalo's 2nd selection in this first round, to be followed by New England, Atlanta, St. Louis, and then Chicago selecting once again. We continue from the Sports Center and from New York City and from Los Angeles and from New Jersey with the NFL Draft. Coverage of the National Football League Draft here in the Sports Center, along with Chris Berman and Bud Wilkinson. I am Bob Lee. Buffalo selects next. It'll be the number 14 selection in the first round. It is a selection, their 2nd of the first round so far, that was acquired for compensation in the Tom Cousineau deal. So Cousineau leave Canada and go to the Cleveland Browns. Now, we're working our way through the first round, dissecting and analyzing. We're up to now the number 7 selection, Todd Blackledge, quarterback out of Penn State, going to Kansas City, a 55% passer, good TD interception ratio, a Phi Beta Kappa, whose father coaches for the Steelers, and Bud, KC going for a quarterback.
Well, you were very strong when you said Phi Beta Kappa. That's not a bad attribute. And 6'3" and 222 pounds is also a great quality. But I think the number one thing about Blackledge is that he is a proven winner. And that's a quality that it's easy to talk about. Some people have it, some people don't. And over the years at Penn State, he has proven when the chips are down, I can make the big play.
Now, we had talked yesterday, Chris, on the preview program about Kansas City, about the Fuller-Kenny quarterback dilemma and how Makovic will address it in Kansas City. Does he address it by going in with a number 7 selection and saying it's your job in training camp?
I don't think he says it's your job in training camp, Bob. As Howard and Paul have mentioned, Fuller is still pretty young, but Fuller has had his opportunity to move the ball club the last few years, and Bill Kenny, too. The problem with the Chiefs the last couple of seasons is neither has taken charge, and Blackledge just may be that take-charge guy. I agree with Bud. I'm surprised that anyone even thought that Eason or Kelly should be rated the number 2 quarterback. In my mind, Blackledge clear, right behind Elway as quarterbacks go.
His highest grade, a 4.9 on the ability to read the defenses, and so a man who grades out to an 18.8, Phi Beta, he can read. He's got all those 4-syllable defenses. He can figure it out. So Todd Blackledge selected by Kansas City. Following that, Michael Haddix was selected by Philadelphia. We spoke with Michael on the phone. Then Houston going for the offensive tackle out of USC, Bruce Matthews. Terry Kennard then selected by the Giants. And Buffalo Bills, we are awaiting their selection. We understand that there's still some time left for Buffalo. Let's take a look at what Matthews will mean to Houston. The tackle out of USC at 6'5", 265 pounds. We grade him out to an 18.9, who might even be rated, according to some pros, ahead of Munchak already with the Oilers.
Well, I think that his scouting, universal support from everyone, and the fact that you play at Southern California, and just to be a starter at Southern Cal as long as he was, means that you're a special athlete.
He can pull, he can pass block, he can trap. His brother Clay plays for the Cleveland Browns, and he'll help you at any position. He's right now a guard, actually, but at 5'1" speed, Chris, going as selection number 9 to Houston, which knew they would get him at that position, so they traded down to that position.
I think so. Houston needs a lot of things. Up in the air the week or two before the draft, would Earl Campbell go anywhere, Bobby? Now that Earl Campbell has not been traded, well, we might as well have some blocking for him. So along with the Munchak who they got last year, now they have Matthews. Remember, Houston has 8 of the top 88 picks in this draft. So a big change in personnel coming next year for the Houston Oilers.
Okay, so Houston 1-8 with the NFL's worst defense last year, making an offensive move on the front line. Buffalo, that selection acquired in the Cousineau compensation deal. The clock ticking down. New England follows the Bills. Let's get back to New York.
Well, the Walsh brothers are waiting to reach out and touch somebody from Orchard Park. We're waiting for their 2nd pick of the 1983 National Football League Draft. 3 minutes and counting, 3:40. As the Bills are awaiting their 2nd pick. They've already taken Tony Hunter, the tight end from Notre Dame. That was their first pick, the overall 12th selection. That was from the Cousineau deal. Cousineau, who was the number 1 pick of the Bills. They lost him to Canada. He wound up going to Cleveland. The end result of that was a first-round choice for Buffalo. Now they're waiting on their own pick, which is the 14th overall pick. In between, it was the Detroit Lions pick of James Jones, the fullback. And let's speculate a little bit more. Let's go one step after the Buffalo Bills pick, and we go to the Patriots, who really had one of the best drafts of anybody last year in terms of numbers.
Well, you've got a real interest in Gary Anderson. The only problem there is that his agent is Jerry Arguvitz, and they feel that learning a new position, wide receiver, they need all his time in camp. And Arguvitz's style is to keep him out of camp until the very last minute, and they really are very nervous about that, but I think they'd take him anyway and hope for the best. But I really don't think they felt that Eason or Jim Kelly would be available. Now they have to reevaluate their thinking and see just how much they want a quarterback.
One other aspect of the Anderson situation with Argovitz is Argovitz represented both Keith Gary and David Overstreet, who signed before the draft. If they had waited till after the draft, they could have talked with every other team in the league. So it was interesting that they did come to an agreement before the draft. Argovitz is reportedly in line for running a team in the United States Football League in Houston, so perhaps he's taking care of his clients a lot faster and not having those long, protracted holdouts, so he can take care of his clients and then get on to the other business that he wants to attend to in his life.
Patriots have done well through the draft, first with Bucko Kilroy, and now with Dick Steinberg back with the Patriots doing their selection process along with Kilroy. They have 11 first-round starters, 11 draft starters. That's tops in the league. In addition to that, last year, they cleaned up in the first round. In fact, they took 7 of the first 60 players who were gobbled up by the Patriots. They took 11 players all told from the draft last year. So it's clear that they've made their mark through the draft.
George, you're kind of stunning us with these numbers here. I don't know how to react to that.
Got them written on your chin.
Yeah, well, I mean, Dick Steinberg is a very classy guy and one of the best in the business. And I just think he has to ask himself now, how much do they need that quarterback, or the instant excitement of Gary Anderson, who really was a tremendously exciting player last year.
And they did make a lot of trades last year, getting a lot of those extra picks. The interesting thing now, we're coming down to close to a minute left in Buffalo's pick, and there had been some talk before the draft that St. Louis might trade up with Buffalo to get a player that they liked. They wanted Tim Lewis. He's been taken already. Their next guy on their list was Joey Browner. They might be afraid that Atlanta is going to take Joey Browner, so they might be talking with Buffalo about a deal. Remember last year on the fourth round of the draft, the Cardinals gave the Bills their fourth-round pick for a pick this year, which the Cardinals eventually traded. So there has been prior dealings between the teams, so that might be what's going on right now.
They don't have to worry about Atlanta and Joey Browner. They like this.
Let's update you on what could transpire if they go past it. Well, here, they've passed on the card now, so we won't have to worry about it. You don't lose your pick. You
what happened to your Walsh brothers?
Rotation.
Walsh brothers fell asleep.
It'll make it before we get to the end. The commissioner with the Buffalo Bills' second first-round pick.
Buffalo selects quarterback Jim Kelly, Miami of Florida. New England Patriots next up.
I won that one. I got it on the second.
Okay, count one for Zim.
But I gave him
Jim Kelly, the quarterback of Miami of Florida, who had the separated shoulder, but is supposed to be 100% A-OK. We'll be back with more of the NFL draft after these messages.
I feel like I could add another dimension to it, like the fullback come out the backfield to catch the football and just throw it to the tailback. You know, they don't have to take the fullback out and put another small receiver in. I feel like I can just stay in there and we just have a lot more diversity to our offense.
Coverage of the National Football League draft for the fourth consecutive year. Chris Berman and Bud Wilkinson, along with yours truly, Bob Lee. And we await New England's selection, but Buffalo has just selected Jim Kelly, quarterback out of Miami, and he's on the telephone line with us now. Jim, congratulations. You were the second quarterback selected in this draft after Elway, John going first. Were you surprised to be selected by Buffalo?
From the beginning, I sort of thought it was going to be Buffalo. I've read a lot of articles, I've talked to many people, and I'm not surprised at all. I'm just glad that I was picked, you know, high up in the first round, and I'm ready to give them 100%.
Being picked number 14.
I guess, Jim, when you had the shoulder injury during the fall, you wondered whether you would be picked at all, whether it would heal. Obviously, you've satisfied a lot of the scouts, especially Buffalo's. Let's hear it from you. How is the shoulder?
It's excellent. I'm probably back to, say, 95 to 100%. I've worked out on the Cybex machine, and I'm very happy with it right now, and I'm just interested in getting ready for the season next year.
Haven't played in Miami. Are you looking forward to that tight shoulder in Buffalo's weather?
I'm ready to play for anybody. Like I said, I'd give 100% for anybody. I went down to Miami. I played under great coaching, and I feel that I have the ability right now to be a good quarterback. And I just want to thank the Buffalo Bills for having the interest in picking me, and I'm just grateful to being part of the Buffalo Bills organization.
We're showing some highlights of you in action right now. The scouting report from a number of NFL sources on you, Jim. Really, your highest grade, the ability to read defenses at a 4.9 on a 5.0 scale. Do you share that opinion? You think that's your strength?
Oh, yes, by far, because I've had great coaching with Earl Morrill and Coach Howard Snellberger. They've taught me everything I know up to date, and that's definitely my strong point. I think that's going to help me, and I think it rates me a couple, maybe 1 or 2 years over a lot of the other quarterbacks because of my great coaching.
You know, you mentioned Earl Morrill, who certainly knows a bit about quarterbacking. You're now going to play for a team who has a quarterback as a head coach. Now, Kay Stevenson was not a Hall of Famer quarterback. Still, he played the position. Do you think that will help you even more develop quicker, Jim, as a pro?
Oh, yes, definitely, because I've heard that he's a great coach and he can coach quarterbacks, and I think he has the capabilities of just like Coach Morrill. I think that I still have a lot to learn, and with the great coaching that he's been projecting, I think that it's going to be excellent for me and for the other quarterbacks.
Well, Jim, again, congratulations on your selection. Jim Kelly out of Miami as quarterback, the number 14 selection overall in the National Football League draft. Going to Buffalo, we are awaiting New England and their selection. But meanwhile, Greg Wyatt is standing by in Los Angeles. The Rams have the number 2 selection. They picked early, and here he is with Ray Nagel. Greg Wyatt.
Well, the sun is just barely rising behind us as it's still very, very early here on the Pacific Coast. Executive Vice President of the Los Angeles Rams, Ray Nagel, is with me. Ray, any surprises so far in this draft for you?
Well, basically, according to our scouts, it's gone pretty much according to form. So I'd say probably not.
You know, our people back in New York were saying that Tony Hunter is kind of the Sean Farrell of '83, that they thought that he would have gone a little bit sooner.
Well, we thought so, too. We're very high on Tony Hunter. We thought that he would go a little higher.
When you look at the situation with Baltimore, you obviously were having several conversations with Marvin Demoff concerning John Elway. Did it surprise you that Baltimore did not work out a trade by today?
It really did, and there's some speculation that there might still be a trade before the first round is over.
Of course, obviously, that speculation has to be with Al Davis and the L.A. Raiders.
No comment on that one, thanks.
Yeah. But when you look at this situation, you were mentioning something about seeing some of the offensive linemen going before some of the defensive people.
Well, that's just a personal observation. I felt like maybe the defensive people would go before offensive linemen, or perhaps your so-called skill positions.
Okay, you have a couple of picks in the second round now. There might be some pretty fair quarterbacks still around by then.
Well, I think so. We have the 32nd pick and also the 36th pick, so we should be able to get something pretty good.
Okay, now some more information concerning Elway is that, it was approximately a half hour ago, there was a conversation between John Elway and Frank Kush of Baltimore, and Elway mentioned to him that there is no way that I am going to play for Baltimore. I can't believe that you did not take the 3 number 1s for me. I am going to baseball. So that's the latest as far as Elway up in San Jose. And now back to New York.
Here's the commissioner.
New England Patriots. New England's first choice in the first round, quarterback, Tony Eason, Illinois. Next up, Atlanta.
Okay, so the quarterback of this day, the 4th quarterback to go. First Elway, then Blacklegs, then Kelly. Now Tony Eason has gone with the New England Patriots, and that more or less confirms what we've just been bouncing back and forth as to their plans.
That's right. With Eason there, they didn't think he was going to be available. There's some scouts who think that down the road Eason's going to be a tremendous quarterback. Of course, now they have 3 quarterbacks there. Perhaps there might be a subsequent deal now involving one of them, Grogan or Kavanaugh. But now most everybody has projected Gary Anderson, the Arkansas wide receiver, as going to New England. Now the big question is, where will he finally end up?
He might end up in San Diego. They've got 2 more picks.
They loved him anyway.
They loved him. They loved him even for their first pick, the number 5 pick. Now they have 2 more picks left. They can do 1 defense and 1 offense. But I'll tell you something about Eason. Jim Finks told me, says after this draft is history, 10 years from now, Eason will be the one player remembered, even more so than Elway. And I said, why did you draft him? And he said, well, we have a quarterback. We have more needs. But he thinks he's the best one.
Let me ask you a little bit about this now with the quarterback situation that the Patriots have. They had the best offer on the table to the Colts regarding the Elway situation. A number 1 and a number 2 this year and next year. Number 1 is gone now, but how about packaging one of their other quarterbacks to Baltimore, plus the number 2 and the number 1 and the number 2 of next year? Is that out of the realm of possibility?
It's crazy. It's only if Baltimore is absolutely panicked and they're afraid of getting nothing. Why do they need damaged goods? I mean, they have 2 hurt quarterbacks. They have a better quarterback right there playing for them. He's playing in the division, and then you have to ask, where's Billy Sullivan going to get all that money? I mean, he's having a lot of money problems. There might be a payoff on the Raiders thing. He had to buy his team back. He's got, you know, severe problems there. Is he going to get up to a $7 million package? I don't think it's very likely.
You think the Elway situation will be finalized before this day is over?
Well, of course, he's called the press conference for 2 o'clock on the coast, 5 o'clock here. So I guess he's giving the Colts a lot of time to try to get themselves out of this. Greg Wyatt just mentioned about the 3 number ones. I don't know that San Diego ever really made that offer. So Atlanta's coming up, and the Colts have to be panicking right now. They're doing a lot of sweat.
My spies tell me that Al Davis is going to draft Elway.